simply out of obedience that God says if you don't get planted, then you cannot be positioned. If you're not positioned, you can't take possession. So it doesn't matter if I feel like it or not. You pull yourself up by your little nappy head and next say, come on, in the name of Jesus. You put one foot in front of the other. You say, we will go to the house of the Lord because that's the commandment of God. It doesn't matter if somebody doesn't like me, somebody looks at me wrong, somebody offends me. You cannot drive me away from my destiny. Let's get it started. It's on in this place because God has declared some things over my life. You pull yourself up by your little nappy head and next Judas turns his back and betrays you with a kiss, and you're like, what's that nappy breath all on me like that? And
one of the first people to call for firing Don Imus, Brian Monroe, president of the National Association of Black Journalists. But you like to see him fired altogether. So you just half satisfied tonight? The TV show's gone, but the radio show might come back?
Well, I think the steps that were taken today by NBC is absolutely the right thing to do. We at the National Association of Black Journalists, we don't revel in anybody losing their job. But what happened last week and in the reaction of the last few days has really sent a signal. And I think the steps that NBC has taken were the right steps. I just met with Les Moonves at CBS about 2 hours ago. And they're struggling with this issue too. And yeah, they know what the right thing is to do. And I
the
think
right thing you think is to get rid of the radio show,
I don't think he should have his show anymore. The line in the sand has been drawn today.
That's right.
This far and no further.
What should happen to Don Imus?
His comments should cost him his job. It's just that simple. He crossed the line.
There's more pressure to come. African-American activists are planning to send this letter to Imus's remaining advertisers, demanding they withdraw sponsorship. And feminists announced a similar campaign today at a rally at Rutgers University.
I'm very proud to tell you that the feminist movement has already distributed over 30,000 emails, and we're just getting cranked up.
And you must understand, 70% of my church is African American, which blows people away in itself. Because our call is, number one, to tear down prejudice and walls of racism. Our call is, number one, to tear down prejudice and walls of racism.
I believe that one of the reasons that God has birthed me into life, and one of my primary purposes, Pastor Michael, is for reconciliation. There's a mantle of God on my life as a reconciler. You'll see that in gender, you'll see that in socioeconomic, you'll see that in race.
Your weave's not on yet, right? But you're still loved unconditionally. And even when you take your shoes off, your feet even stink. Come on, I know you love God.
You pull yourself up by your little nappy head and next say, come on, in the name of Jesus. You put one foot in front of the other. You say, we will go to the house of the Lord. You pull yourself up by your little nappy head and next.
Starting ministry in inner city and ministering in places, Washington, D.C., feeding the homeless, the hurting, going to broken boys and girls. So there, culturally, I understood all different aspects of life, from extremely wealthy to extreme poverty, socioeconomic differences, ethnic differences. And the appeal, I always say, you're going to have to ask someone else, but I believe the purpose is to stand as a reconciler, a bridge builder. And so I've stood in a place to always be a bridge between different people and bring together people for the common cause of Christ.
You pull yourself up by your little nappy head and next say, come on, in the name of Jesus.
I will act like the person I believe I am. And it's very powerful.
So our only boundaries in life then become our own perception of potential. And I love this translation. We say, as a man thinketh, so is he. But one of them says, as a man thinks, what he was all along, he acts out.
That's good.
And so what he was all along, he acts out.
You pull yourself up by your little nappy head and next say, come on, in the name of Jesus.
You know, there's a time in life that you just say enough is enough and you draw the line in the sand.
The line in the sand has been drawn today.
That's right.
This far and no further. There has to be a certain understanding of what's in bounds and what's out of bounds. And I think NBC just made that clear.
It hasn't been talked about very much. Out in the open next, why his use of the word nappy makes so many black women absolutely outraged. Imus says those words were repugnant himself. But the word nappy in particular struck a painful chord with many African American women who see it as an attack on their natural hair and ethnic identity. Crystal, you obviously think they have done the right thing.
I absolutely think that they've done the right thing.
What are you imagining CBS is thinking tonight?
Well, they're in a really tough position because they're going to have to perhaps follow suit. I know for me, as a consumer, as a mother of a black daughter who has a certain texture hair, to hear these remarks, to be in school as she is and the only black child there, and the stigma, I don't even want to repeat the word because we as black folks in our images, we struggle enough as it is with images in the media that don't glorify and honor us or really just treat us with integrity. I think that CBS is in a position that they're really going to have to step up to the plate as well and figure out if they want to be associated with someone who made a comment like this. He's a good guy, probably. I don't know him personally, but he made a bad choice. A lot of careers are broken by bad choices.
I mean, this man made a horrible mistake, said something really stupid, but I guarantee you 70 stations around the country aren't going to drop him because they never hired him, they never used him to be some moral character to push the issues. They hired him to entertain people, and that's what he's done. He messed up. They never hired him, they never used him to be some moral character to push the issues.
There's a mantle of God on my life as a reconciler. You'll see that in gender, you'll see that in socioeconomic, you'll see that in race.
There has to be a certain understanding of what's in bounds and what's out of bounds.
That's a nappy-headed horse.
NBC News says effective immediately it will no longer simulcast Imus's radio program, adding in a statement, "What matters to us most is that the men and women of NBC Universal have confidence in the values we have set for this company. This is the only decision that makes that possible." On the air this morning, Imus indicated that he believed his career was threatened. Imus is still employed by CBS Radio for now. He has been trying to save his job for the past few days, repeatedly apologizing for his comments about the Rutgers team.
I'm enormously grateful that they've agreed to let me come out and talk to them.
But as fast as Don Imus was backing away from his offensive comments, advertisers were backing away from him. General Motors, GlaxoSmithKline, Sprint Nextel, and American Express all said today they are pulling ads from his broadcasts. Other advertisers say they're evaluating whether to drop Imus.
We've talked an awful lot about integrity of organizations, employees complaining to NBC executives that this kind of intolerance can't be accepted. But at the end of the day, what did the pressure of the advertisers pulling out have on NBC's decision?
It was significant. GM, American Express, Staples, all the advertisers Procter & Gamble, they made a decision. It was mainly a business decision, but it was also who do they want to associate themselves with. And you go back to the word sponsor. In the old days, it was the patron. You're associating yourself, you're sponsoring an individual or an organization. And they said, this is not us.
Our call is, number one, to tear down prejudice and walls of racism.
You pull yourself up by your little nappy head and next say, come on in the name of Jesus.
The word nappy in particular struck a painful chord with many African American women who see it as an attack on their natural hair and ethnic identity.
The line in the sand has been drawn today.
That's right.
This far and no further. There has to be a certain understanding of what's in bounds and what's out of bounds.